You're not losing the game. You're not winning it either. Because the truth is, you don't even know you're playing. You think you're living life, making choices, setting goals. But in reality, you've been placed on a board you didn't design, with rules you never agreed to, and expectations whispered into your mind long before you knew how to question them. Your job, your image, your reputation, all just pieces. You wake up each day trying to optimize your next move. But stop for a moment. Ask yourself something you never had the time or the courage to ask. Whose game am I playing? This isn't the elegant chess match you imagine, wine glass in hand, strategies unfolding with confidence. No, this is survival chess, played in silence, played in the dark, with missing pieces, invisible threats, and a clock ticking against your piece. And here's the real trap. You don't even know what piece you are. Are you the pawn, obedient, replaceable, always moving forward because it's all you were told you could do? Are you the queen, versatile, powerful, but sent into every battle, burned out before the end? Or are you the spectator, so far removed from your own center that you've become a passive observer of your own life? But here's the truth. You're none of them. You are the king. And the king doesn't move like the rest. He moves slowly, rarely, not because he's weak, but because his very survival defines the game. Without the king, the game ends. Let that sink in. You are not powerful because of how much you do. You're powerful because of what you protect. But the world has tricked you. It told you that to matter, you have to hustle. That your value comes from how useful, visible, impressive you are. So you've spent years in motion, trying to be productive, attractive, impressive. And in that motion, you've forgotten something essential. The king who moves too fast dies. You're making moves every day, but are they yours? Or are you reacting to pressure, to fear, to expectations that don't belong to you? Have you ever paused long enough to ask, puzzle piece, what am I trying to win? Puzzle piece, who told me what winning even looks like? Puzzle piece, what am I sacrificing just to stay in motion? Let me tell you what real strategy looks like. It starts in silence. It starts in stillness. It starts when you stop performing and start perceiving. Not everything on the board is worth chasing. Not every shining piece matters. And not every fight is your fight. But you've been taught that movement equals progress. That busyness equals success. That appearing strong equals being strong. But strength without direction? That's noise. Movement without purpose? That's panic. And now, you've become so busy trying to win. You've forgotten what's worth defending. And here's where the pain enters. Every time you say yes when your soul screams no, you move your king closer to defeat. Every time you chase applause while ignoring your intuition, you trade your crown for coins. Every time you push forward without asking where you're going, you step further away from yourself. So now I ask you, what are you protecting? If your answer is my job, my status, my reputation, then let me be clear, you're not protecting, you're performing. The real game is not out there. It's not on LinkedIn. It's not in your bank account. It's in here, in your mind, in your center, in that part of you you've been too busy to sit with. And here's the turning point. The king doesn't need to move much. He just needs to know who he is. Do you? Because until you do, you'll keep moving by reaction, not intention. And people who move without intention, they lose. Quietly, slowly, one decision at a time, until they wake up and realize they've lost the most important piece, themselves. The king doesn't attack. He resists. And that's what makes him dangerous. You've been taught that real power is loud. It dominates. It pushes. It takes what it wants. But true power, the kind that shakes kingdoms, doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't scream, fight, or demand validation. It holds. It withstands. It chooses when to move and when not to. Carl Jung understood this. He wrote, "Where wisdom reigns, there is no conflict between thinking and feeling, because a king doesn't fight every battle. He doesn't react to every insult. He doesn't chase every threat. He chooses, because his energy is sacred. His silence is strategic. His restraint is power." But here's the problem. You live in a world that mistakes stillness for weakness. If you don't shout, they say you're soft. If you don't retaliate, they think you're scared. If you don't compete, they call you lazy. So you react. You explain yourself. You defend your worth. You overcompensate just to prove you're not what they think. And in doing so, you give away the one thing a king can never afford to lose: his center. Have you noticed how often your energy is hijacked? Someone disrespects you. Suddenly your whole day is ruined. One comment online throws you into a spiral of self-doubt. A competitor gets more praise, and you forget your own value. This isn't power. This is emotional slavery. You are ruled by everything except yourself. But the king? The king holds the throne inside. He is not moved by the noise of the crowd, because he's tuned to a different frequency, one built on self-trust, not external approval. Let me ask you something. How many decisions have you made just to avoid judgment? How many dreams have you buried just to avoid standing out? How many truths have you silenced just to be liked? And what has it cost you? Your identity, your authenticity, your peace. You've been trained to perform, but the king doesn't perform. He leads, and that means knowing when to act and when to stand still with unwavering conviction. The king doesn't move to prove. He moves to protect. He moves to build. He moves to align. And when you embody that energy, something radical happens. The world no longer controls your rhythm. You do. You begin to say no without guilt. You stop chasing people who don't see you. You stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. Because suddenly, you realize your silence isn't weakness. It's a shield, a border, a throne. And when someone tries to pull you into chaos, you no longer ask, "How do I fight back?" You ask, "Is this worthy of my presence?" Most things are not. And that's the wisdom Jung was pointing to. The king archetype isn't about ego. It's not about control. It's about inner order, about holding the sacred fire of meaning, vision, and responsibility, even when the world is burning. So the next time someone tests your peace, don't rush to react. Don't abandon your throne to chase shadows. Instead, ask yourself, what would the king do? Then, choose from power, not panic. From alignment, not approval. From depth, not drama. That's how the king wins. Not by fighting harder, but by mastering what no one can see. His own presence. Every king has a shadow, and the more he denies it, the more it rules him. Carl Jung warned that the brighter the persona, the darker the shadow behind it. So while the king may appear noble, calm, and wise, beneath the surface lurks a force far more dangerous than any external enemy. The Shadow King. He shows up in two forms, and both are equally destructive. First, the tyrant. This king isn't strong, he's scared. He rules through fear because he's terrified of being challenged. He silences others because he's afraid of being exposed. He demands loyalty not because he inspires it, but because he cannot survive without control. You've seen him. The boss who punishes questions. The parent who shames rather than teaches. The partner who controls your every move in the name of love. This king confuses authority with dominance. But dominance is not leadership. It's insecurity dressed in a crown. And the more he tries to tighten his grip, the more everything slips through his fingers. Why? Because fear can make people obey, but it can never make them trust. And without trust, a king is just a man yelling from an empty throne. Second, the passive king. He doesn't rule at all. He avoids conflict. He keeps the peace at any cost. But peace without truth is not peace. It's silence. And silence becomes decay. This king watches his kingdom fall apart, but tells himself he's being spiritual, accepting, non-reactive. But in reality, he's abandoning his throne. Because real leadership isn't about avoiding discomfort. It's about carrying responsibility, even when it burns. The passive king doesn't say what needs to be said. He lets dysfunction grow. He lets injustice spread. He lets relationships rot from the inside. Because he fears being disliked more than he fears disconnection. He becomes a ghost in his own story. A man who once had a vision, but now avoids his own reflection. So let me ask you, which shadow haunts you more? Is it the tyrant? The one who lashes out, controls, and destroys to feel important? Or is it the passive king? The one who fades away, avoids the hard conversations, and quietly watches his power disappear? Both are born from fear. Both are fueled by shame. And both are what Jung called possession by the shadow. When the parts of you refuse to face end up using you like a puppet. But there's good news. The shadow isn't evil. It's just unconscious. It contains the power you've rejected, the truths you've buried, the wounds you've ignored. And when you bring it to light, you don't just become more aware. You become whole. Because the true king integrates. He doesn't pretend he's perfect. He doesn't deny the darkness. He learns to sit with it, study it, and transform it. He asks, where am I trying to control because I'm afraid? Where am I avoiding responsibility because it's uncomfortable? Where am I playing small because I fear rejection? He doesn't wait for permission to lead. He doesn't expect the world to fix him. He returns to his throne, not because he's flawless, but because he's ready to face everything inside him with open eyes. That's what makes him a king. Not power over others, but power over himself. There comes a moment when you can no longer ignore the throne. You've wandered the forest. You've faced the tyrant within. You've seen how silence corrodes truth. And now, you're standing at the gate of responsibility. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But here's the catch. Who you truly are terrifies the ego. Because to become a king, you must die as a boy, not physically, but psychologically. You must let go of the need to be liked, the need to be rescued, the need to be told what to do. A boy waits for direction. A king creates it. A boy asks for approval. A king acts from alignment. A boy clings to comfort. A king chooses truth, even when it hurts. And this transformation isn't loud. It's not dramatic. It's quiet, private. It happens the moment you decide, I will no longer betray myself just to belong. That's the coronation. But what does it actually mean to sit on the throne? It's not about fame, wealth, or power over others. It's about responsibility for your inner kingdom, your thoughts, your emotions, your patterns, your shadow. You become the one who watches without flinching, the one who notices, I'm spiraling into resentment, let me pause. I'm projecting my fears, let me reclaim them. I'm tempted to abandon myself, let me return. That's the king in motion. Not perfect, not always confident, but deeply present. And here's the beautiful part. When you embody this energy, you change the world around you. Because true kings don't control, they inspire. Their presence brings clarity. Their stillness calms storms. Their words awaken something ancient in others. You don't have to shout. You don't need to prove. You just are. And people feel it. They lean in. They listen. Not because you force them, but because your alignment gives them permission to find their own. Leadership becomes effortless. Not because it's easy, but because it's integrated. Let me give you a story. There was once a man who walked into his family home. The same place where he used to feel small, unseen, silenced. But something was different. He didn't argue. He didn't shrink. He didn't perform. He just stood in his truth. Calm, clear, rooted. And in that silence, the entire family dynamic shifted. No speeches, no fights, just presence. That's the throne. You carry it wherever you go. So what does it mean for you? It means you stop outsourcing your worth. You stop blaming the world for your pain. You stop waiting for someone to crown you. And instead, you sit down. You breathe. You say, this is mine to lead. Not because you're the smartest. Not because you're always right. But because you're finally willing to hold it all. The fear, the grace, the uncertainty. Without running. That's a king. Not a fantasy. Not a superhero. But a man who's come home to himself. So if you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. Stop doubting. Stop delaying. Start ruling. Not others, but the kingdom within.